Part 2, Shattered Reflections. The days after the revelation felt like a nightmare. Neither Sharon nor David could escape. They avoided each other, too stunned to even process what had happened. Sharon's heart ached in ways she didn't understand, torn between love and revulsion. As she grappled with the unbearable truth, the person she had fallen for was her brother. Weeks passed. David tried to reach out several times, but Sharon couldn't bring herself to answer his calls. She buried herself in her studies, hoping it would numb the storm raging inside her. But nothing could erase the memories, the laughter, the moments that once felt so pure but were now tainted. Then one evening, David showed up at her apartment. His eyes were filled with a mix of sorrow and desperation. Sharon tried to send him away, but David stopped her with a single sentence that froze her in place. "I found out the truth. It's not what we thought." Confused, Sharon let him in. They sat down, and David pulled out a folder filled with documents he had gathered over the past few weeks. His voice was steady but laced with tension as he explained that after the shocking discovery, he began searching for answers. He had tracked down old family records and spoken to relatives who were long estranged. "I found my real birth certificate," David said, handing her a document. "It turns out I was adopted." Sharon's heart raced as she stared at the paper, her mind struggling to catch up. "Adopted?" she whispered, barely able to speak. David nodded. "Your mother, she isn't my biological mother. My birth parents abandoned me as a baby, and she took me in. She kept it hidden from everyone, even me. That's why my past felt like such a blur when we talked about our childhoods." Sharon felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by the mess of emotions swirling inside her. "But why didn't she ever tell you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "I don't know," David admitted. "Maybe she was ashamed, or maybe she thought it would protect me. But now we know the truth. We're not related by blood." Everything they had believed was wrong. The barrier that had once stood between them had been torn down, but the emotional toll of thinking they were siblings had already left deep scars. Could they just go back to how things were before? They had suffered through weeks of agony, only to learn that the one thing that had torn them apart wasn't real. Yet, as she looked at David, she wasn't sure if it mattered anymore. Even without the blood tie, their connection was now something darker, more complicated. David leaned forward, his voice soft but urgent. "Sharon, we can still be together. This doesn't have to change how we feel." But Sharon hesitated. "David, everything has changed. The love we had, now there's so much confusion, so much pain. Can we really go back to how things were?" The room grew thick with tension. Just as Sharon was about to respond, a loud knock echoed through the apartment.
Want Part 3? Check out my page.